Plato's Allegory of the Cave. Plato's allegory depicts prisoners chained in a dark cave, mistaking shadows on a wall for reality due to a fire behind them casting images of objects. They've never seen the outside world, so they believe the shadows are all that exists. When one prisoner is freed, he's initially blinded by sunlight and struggles to accept the real world of trees, animals, and sky as more authentic than the shadows. If he returns to inform the others, they may resist, clinging to their familiar illusions. This story illustrates the gap between perception and truth, showing how enlightenment is a painful but necessary journey to break free from deceptive beliefs. The Ship of Theseus. The Ship of Theseus is a thought experiment questioning identity over time. If Theseus's ship has all its wooden parts replaced as they decay, is it still the same ship? Further, if the original planks are stored and reassembled into an identical ship, which is the true Ship of Theseus, the one with replaced parts or the one rebuilt from the originals? This explores whether identity depends on continuity or the original materials, extending to personal identity, AI, cloning, and transformation. It asks how much change something can undergo while remaining the same. The Trolley Problem. The trolley problem is an ethical dilemma where a runaway trolley will kill 5 people unless you pull a lever to divert it, killing 1 person instead. Utilitarianism suggests pulling the lever to minimize harm, but deontological ethics argues that actively causing a death is wrong, even if it saves more lives. Variations, like pushing a person to stop the trolley, reveal emotional influences on moral decisions. This thought experiment is relevant to modern issues like self-driving cars, military choices, and medical ethics, highlighting the complexity of moral reasoning. Determinism versus free will determinism posits that all events, including human actions, are caused by prior conditions like biology, environment, and physics, implying free will is an illusion. Free will advocates argue we can make independent choices, essential for concepts like morality and responsibility. Compatibilism suggests both can coexist. Our actions may be influenced, but we still choose meaningfully. Neuroscience showing brain activity precedes conscious decisions supports determinism, yet our lived experience feels like free choice, leaving the debate unresolved. Existential angst. Existential angst is the anxiety from realizing life lacks inherent meaning, leaving us responsible for creating our own purpose in an indifferent universe. Thinkers like Kierkegaard and Sartre describe it as the overwhelming freedom to choose without a cosmic guide. This can paralyze some who escape into dogma or distractions, but existentialists argue it's liberating, urging us to live authentically and shape our own meaning, transforming uncertainty into an opportunity for intentional living. Nihilism. Nihilism holds that life has no inherent meaning, value, or purpose, rejecting objective moral or divine truths. Nietzsche's God is Dead highlights the loss of traditional meaning sources, warning against despair while advocating for creating personal purpose. Forms include moral nihilism, no objective right or wrong, epistemological nihilism, doubting knowledge, and existential nihilism, life lacks meaning. Critics fear it leads to inaction, but others see it as freedom to define one's own path. Solipsism. Solipsism suggests only one's own mind is certain to exist, and everything else, people, objects, the universe, might be an illusion within one's consciousness. Descartes' I think, therefore I am, establishes self-awareness as certain, but proving external reality is challenging. Berkeley argued existence depends on perception, possibly by a divine mind. The problem of evil. The problem of evil questions why an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-good God allows evil. If God can and should prevent suffering but doesn't, how is this reconciled? The free will defense argues evil exists because true freedom allows wrong choices. Soul-making theodicy suggests suffering fosters moral growth. Some claim human understanding can't grasp divine purposes, while skeptics argue widespread suffering challenges a benevolent God's existence, fueling debates on morality and divinity. The paradox of the heap, Sorite's paradox. The Sorite's paradox questions when a heap ceases to be a heap if grains are removed one by one, or when it becomes a heap if grains are added. This vagueness applies to concepts like baldness or wealth, where boundaries are unclear. Fuzzy logic suggests truth exists on a spectrum, while others argue language lacks precision. The paradox challenges how we categorize reality and whether vague definitions reflect flawed language or reality itself. Dualism versus monism. Dualism, as per Descartes, posits mind and body as distinct. The mind is immaterial, the body physical, raising questions about their interaction. Monism argues for one substance, materialism, mind is brain activity, or idealism, reality is mental. Neuroscience supports materialism, but the hard problem of consciousness, why brain activity feels like something, remains. This debate shapes views on the afterlife, AI, and whether we're more than physical beings. Moral relativism. Moral relativism claims morality varies by culture, history, or individual, rejecting universal moral truths. Cultural relativism sees morality as shaped by societal norms, while subjective relativism ties it to personal views. Critics warn it risks ethical nihilism, undermining judgments against atrocities. Kant argued for universal principles. Relativism prompts reflection on whether morals are objective or products of upbringing, influencing tolerance and ethical debates. Tabula Rasa. Tabula Rasa, or blank slate, proposed by Locke, suggests humans are born without innate knowledge, shaped entirely by experience. This influenced behaviorism and education, emphasizing environment's role. However, genetics and neuroscience indicate innate traits, suggesting a nature-nurture mix. The concept underscores human potential for transformation through learning, even if not fully blank at birth. The absurd Camus. Concept of the absurd describes the conflict between our search for meaning and the universe's indifference. We seek purpose but find none, leading to despair or nihilism. Camus rejects nihilism, using Sisyphus's endless task as a metaphor for embracing life's struggle joyfully. The absurd liberates us to create personal meaning without relying on external systems. Eternal recurrence. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence asks if you'd relive your life identically forever, testing whether you affirm your existence. If horrifying, it suggests an unfulfilling life. If embraced, it reflects authenticity. Not literal, it's a psychological challenge to live without regret, embracing all experiences, joy and suffering, as Nietzsche's amor fati, love of fate, urges. Social contract theory. Social contract theory posits that societies form through agreements where individuals sacrifice some freedoms for security and order. Hobbes saw it as escaping a brutal state of nature. Locke emphasized protecting natural rights. Rousseau stressed collective lawmaking. It balances individual liberty with societal needs, relevant to debates on human rights. The veil of ignorance, Rawls' veil of ignorance, asks you to design a fair society without knowing your place in it, rich or poor, healthy or disabled. Rational people would create rules ensuring fairness, prioritizing freedoms, opportunities, and protections for the vulnerable. This thought experiment promotes unbiased ethical reasoning, influencing discussions on inequality and justice. The is-ought problem, Hume's guillotine. Hume's is-ought problem argues you can't derive moral obligations ought from facts is. For example, saying people fight wars doesn't mean wars should continue. This gap challenges ethical reasoning, requiring additional justification beyond observation. It's a cornerstone in ethics, urging critical examination of moral claims. Hedonism. Hedonism views pleasure as the ultimate good, with actions judged by their ability to maximize happiness. Epicurus emphasized balanced, long-term well-being over fleeting pleasures. Critics argue it risks shallowness or selfishness, while Mill's utilitarianism refines it to maximize collective happiness. Hedonism questions whether pleasure alone defines a meaningful life. Pascal's wager. Pascal's wager argues for believing in God based on outcomes. If God exists, belief yields infinite reward, heaven. Disbelief risks infinite loss, hell. If God doesn't exist, belief costs little. Critics highlight the many gods problem, or argue belief should stem from truth, not pragmatism. It remains a key debate in religious philosophy. Cogito Ergo Sum, Descartes' I think, therefore I am, establishes self-awareness as undeniable truth. By doubting everything, senses, reality, even a deceiving demon, he found that doubting proves a thinking self exists. Critics question whether this assumes a unified I or proves external reality. The cogito is foundational in epistemology, affirming consciousness as certain. The Euthyphro Dilemma. In Plato's Euthyphro, Socrates asks, is something good because the gods command it, or do they command it because it's good? If good because commanded, morality is arbitrary. If commanded because good, morality exists independently. This challenges divine command theory, suggesting morality may rely on reason, remaining pivotal in religious ethics. The golden mean. Aristotle's golden mean defines virtue as balance between extremes, e.g., courage lies between cowardice and recklessness. It's not mediocrity, but context-sensitive harmony, requiring practical wisdom. This influences virtue ethics, leadership, and politics, emphasizing character development over rigid rules. Occam's razor. Occam's razor, attributed to William of Ockham, advises preferring the simplest explanation with the fewest assumptions. In science, it favors testable theories. In medicine, common diagnoses. Critics note simplicity doesn't guarantee truth, but it remains a key heuristic in reasoning, promoting clarity and evidence. The principle of sufficient reason. Leibniz's principle states everything has a reason or cause, foundational in metaphysics and science. It raises questions about the universe's existence or free will, suggesting all events are determined. Critics argue some events, e.g., quantum events, may be random, or an infinite regress of reasons is possible, yet it drives inquiry into why things exist. The Gettier Problem. Gettier's 1963 problem challenges the definition of knowledge as justified true belief, JTB. In cases where someone has a justified belief that's true by luck, e.g., believing Sarah owns a red car based on seeing her drive a rental, unaware she bought another, it's not true knowledge. This prompts rethinking what distinguishes knowledge from coincidence. The Categorical Imperative. Kant's categorical imperative demands acting only on maxims you'd will as universal laws. For example, lying fails if universalized, as trust would collapse. Another formulation insists on treating people as ends, not means. It emphasizes duty and universal morality, though critics find it rigid, influencing ethical consistency debates. The mind-body problem. The mind-body problem explores how the immaterial mind, consciousness, relates to the physical body. Descartes' dualism posits separate substances, struggling to explain interaction. Materialism sees mind as brain activity, but the hard problem asks why this produces subjective experience. Theories like panpsychism or functionalism attempt solutions, impacting AI and consciousness studies. Akrasia, weakness of will. Akrasia is acting against one's better judgment, like eating junk food despite a healthy diet plan. Socrates argued it stems from ignorance. Aristotle saw it as a failure of self-control. Modern psychology supports Aristotle, showing emotions and fatigue undermine willpower. Overcoming akrasia involves habits and mindfulness, central to self-discipline discussions. Dialectical Materialism. Marx and Engels. Dialectical materialism explains history and society through material conditions and class conflict. Contradictions between classes, e.g., capitalists versus workers, drive revolutionary change. It prioritizes economics over ideas, shaping ideology as a reflection of the ruling class. Critics note it may undervalue human agency, but it influences inequality and labor debates. The experience machine. Nozick's experience machine asks if you'd plug into a device simulating perfect happiness, indistinguishable from reality. Most reject it, valuing authentic experiences over illusion, challenging hedonism's focus on pleasure. It raises questions about meaning and reality, relevant to virtual reality and AI debates. Utilitarianism. Utilitarianism, developed by Bentham and Mill, judges actions by maximizing happiness and minimizing suffering. Bentham's hedonic calculus weighs pleasure objectively, while Mill prioritizes higher pleasures, intellectual, moral. Critics highlight risks like the tyranny of the majority, but it remains influential in ethics, economics, and policy. Zeno's paradoxes. Zeno's paradoxes, like Achilles and the tortoise, argue motion is impossible due to infinite divisibility of space. Achilles can't catch a tortoise as he must reach infinite points where it moved. Calculus resolves this with finite sums of infinite series, but the paradoxes challenge intuitions about time, space, and infinity. The Anthropic Principle. The Anthropic Principle notes the universe seems fine-tuned for life because we're here to observe it. The weak version says we can only exist in a life-supporting universe. The strong version suggests life is inevitable. Critics call it non-explanatory, but it fuels debates on cosmology and multiverses. The liar paradox. The liar paradox. This statement is false, creates a logical loop. If true, it's false. If false, it's true. Variations like, ignore this sign, challenge logic and language. Solutions include rejecting self-reference or using non-binary truth, impacting set theory, Gödel's theorems, and AI. The problem of induction. Hume's problem of induction questions why past patterns, e.g., sun rising, guarantee future ones. This circular reliance on past success undermines empirical knowledge. Solutions like pragmatism or probabilistic reasoning suggest induction is reliable, if not certain, shaping science and epistemology. Falsificationism. Popper's falsificationism argues science progresses by disproving theories, not confirming them. A theory is scientific if testable and falsifiable, distinguishing it from pseudoscience like astrology. Challenges include refining theories despite failures, but it remains a cornerstone of scientific method. The butterfly effect. The butterfly effect, from chaos theory, shows small changes, e.g., a butterfly's wings, can lead to massive outcomes, e.g., a tornado. It highlights sensitivity in complex systems like weather or economies, questioning predictability, free will, and responsibility for small actions' consequences. The Sorites paradox, repeated. The Sorites paradox questions when a heap stops being a heap as grains are removed, highlighting vagueness in concepts like heap or bald. Fuzzy logic or approximate reasoning offers solutions, impacting law, ethics, and identity by challenging clear boundaries and definitions. The lottery paradox. Keiberg's lottery paradox arises from believing each ticket in a 10,000-ticket lottery will lose due to low odds, yet knowing one must win. This conflicts rational belief with probability, suggesting belief should reflect degrees of confidence, influencing logic and epistemology. Buridan's ass. Buridan's ass depicts a donkey starving between two identical hay piles, unable to choose rationally due to equal desirability. It questions whether pure reason suffices for decisions, suggesting randomness or intuition is needed, relevant to free will, AI, and decision-making. Metaethics. Metaethics examines morality's nature, asking if moral truths are objective, moral realism, or subjective, anti-realism. Cognitivism sees moral statements as factual. Non-cognitivism views them as emotional or prescriptive. It explores whether morality is rational, emotional, or societal, shaping ethical debates. The argument from illusion. The argument from illusion questions sensory reliability, as illusions, e.g., a bent stick in water, show perception can mislead. Descartes' evil demon extends this, suggesting all reality might be false. Indirect realism or idealism offers solutions, impacting consciousness and simulation theories. The open question argument. Moore's open question argument critiques ethical naturalism, arguing moral terms like good aren't reducible to natural properties like pleasure. Asking, is pleasure good remains meaningful, suggesting morality is distinct, influencing ethical definitions and debates. The death of the author. Barth's death of the author argues a text's meaning lies with readers, not the author's intent. Once created, a work is open to infinite interpretations, challenging traditional criticism. It influences postmodernism and reader response theory, questioning authorship and meaning. The identity of indiscernibles. Leibniz's identity of indiscernibles states that two entities sharing all properties are identical. If no difference exists, they're one entity, impacting logic, metaphysics, and quantum mechanics, where identical particles challenge individuality, raising questions about identity and perception. The hard problem of consciousness. Chalmers' hard problem asks why physical brain processes produce subjective experience. While neuroscience explains functions, easy problems, why feelings arise remains unclear. Theories like panpsychism suggest consciousness is universal, impacting AI, free will, and reality debates. The Gaia hypothesis, repeated. Lovelock's Gaia hypothesis views Earth as a self-regulating system where life maintains conditions for survival, e.g., stable oxygen levels. Critics argue it overstates regulation, but it influences ecology and climate science, highlighting life-environment interdependence. The free rider problem. The free rider problem occurs when individuals benefit from shared resources, e.g., public transport, without contributing, risking system collapse. Solutions include taxes,